Alright, if you hear some odd noises, it's because the window's over there. It's July 4th, a lot of fireworks going off and stuff. So, thumbnail was the tournament. Dealt the No Limit tournament, the July 4th bash or something like that, most of the day. Then at 4, the Omaha 8 tournament started. Not my favorite game, but getting better at it. So I dealt the No Limit tournament until I was like getting closer. Like I was moving in one direction up the table numbers, and the tables were breaking down the table numbers. So once I got to the point where my table broke, then I went to the Omaha 8 tournament. It was about an hour after the Omaha 8 tournament started. Dealt 6 downs there, and then I was out on overtime for the entire day. Awesome. Final day of the week. I broke 40 hours on Tuesday, and it's Thursday right now. So that was cool. 18 an hour plus all the down rates. Didn't deal any cash today. Most interesting thing that happened today. Talked back to a player a little bit. It wasn't much. The thing is, you need to pick when you do that. There are groups of people who can handle it and can handle it. I'm actually going to tell you another story first. There was a guy in Windstar. This was like May or June 2021. And he wasn't just talking. Social people are great for the table. He was talking, but like some of the comments were like directed specifically at certain people at the table. They were like semi-caustic. Like some of the people couldn't handle it. So other people and the dealer even were like talking back to him. And everything anyone else said, I was worried the guy was gonna like snap and leave. It was like getting there. So then I started talking back to the guy because I could do it in a way such that he'll stay. It will never be like so sharp and like, regardless of how sensitive or insensitive he is, I can do it in a way that he'll never snap out of anger and leave. And he was playing every hand and he was losing, so we wanted him to stay. So I started talking a lot more until he got up for like a few minutes to smoke or something. When he left the table, I told everyone else, I said, guys, can you stop talking to him the way you're talking to him? Because like you're going too far and I'm worried you're going to get him so mad that he's going to leave. Like I'm really good at this and I'll keep doing it. You'll like enjoy the insults like with me that I say to him. And when I get him to like talk in circles and contradict himself, you'll enjoy all that. But I'll do it in a way such that he'll stay. He'll only leave when he runs out of money or gets bored. He's not going to leave out of anger because someone said something over the line. Which they didn't really stick to that plan, but I tried. So, there are some people at Orleans, usually like the people who are like 100, just like throw tantrums sometimes, like 3-year-olds. Can't talk back to those people. And there are some people, usually ages like 35 to 50, who are just lunatics. Like there was actually a cursing match the other day between a player and a dealer. Wish I had more details on it. It was like pretty far away, but it was bad. And the floor replaced the dealer, told the dealer to leave for the rest of the down. The floor dealt. I've never seen him deal before. It was that bad that he took the dealer's place and dealt the rest of the down, so the dealer and the player weren't at the same table. There are some people who will just snap. Can't talk back to them either. There was a reasonable guy who just said a couple of odd things. So, okay, I don't even know the rule on this. It was Omaha 8, so it's the fixed limit game. I'm an expert on no limit betting, not fixed limit. So this is what happened, and I'm sure like 30 people will tell me in the comments what the rule is, and there will be like 6 different things among those 30 people, but whatever. This is what happened. It was on the turn, so the limits were 1,000, 2,000. So on the turn and river, the bets and the races are 2,000. So seat 1 bet 2,000. Seat 2 called 2,000. Seat 6, the other player in the hand, is all in for 2,700. And this is what happens when you're all in a limit game. Because if he had more than 2 big bets, he wouldn't be all in. He would raise to 4,000 and he would have a few chips behind. It's like almost every all in a fixed limit game this happens. So he's all in. It's more than 1 big bet. It's not quite 2 big bets. So it gets back to the 1 seat, the original bettor, and he says to me, "Is that live?" Kind of knew what he meant, but it wasn't a clear enough question. So I said, "What are you asking?" And he said, "Can I raise?" And before I could even answer, he throws in 700. So I said, "Well, it doesn't matter now, you called, but yeah, you could have raised." So I'll pause this story and I'll bring you back to like a month ago. I was dealing stud and don't deal or play a lot of fixed limit games. So this exact scenario happened in stud, like week 1 or 2 of the series. And a player asked, can I raise? And the only knowledge I had, even though it's a different game, was no limit. So I said, in no limit, the player, if someone bet 2,000 and then someone went all in for 2,700, the original better's options, fold or call. That's it. So that's all I had to go on. I'm not an expert on fixed limit nuances in betting. And I told the player a month ago in that stud tournament, your options are call or fold. He called. The third player in the hand called. And of course, like they all do, they're so stupid. They call the bets, they wait for me to pull all the chips in, and then they get mad and tell me I'm wrong. So these 2 guys called the floor over because they said no, they should have had the option to raise. The time to bring this, I don't know if I'm right or wrong, the time to bring this up is before you call the bet and the round of betting is over. If you really want to put in a raise, get to the bottom of it before you put more chips in. But they're morons, so they didn't do that. But they called the floor, and the floor said, well, the action on the street is over already, so you're not raising now. But yeah, you could have raised. If you want to raise, it's the all-in number plus 1 big bet. So I don't remember the specifics in that stud hand, but it was the exact same scenario in this Omaha 8 hand today. So it was bet of 2,000, call of 2,000, all in for 2,700. So I told the guy, well, it doesn't matter now because you called, but yeah, you could have raised. He goes, no, it's not enough. And I said, any amount of an all-in like that triggers a raise. It would be that amount plus 1 big bet. You could have made it 4,700. And he says, I'm like pulling the chips in at this point. Even the third player just called the extra 700. I'm pulling the chips in. I'm like putting the next card out for the river. And he says, no, it wasn't enough. The guy who's all in chimes in, and he says it had to be at least half. People so badly confuse the scenarios where half of a raise... The half of a legal minimum raise threshold does not matter during all-ins. It matters if people have chips behind, and they throw out a weird amount, usually by accident, and you sometimes say, that's a call, and you sometimes say, you've put out so much, you need to make it a legal minimum raise, and you make the guy put out more chips. You can never make the player put out more chips when he has no more chips, which is what an all-in is. So the half of a legal minimum raise never matters in all-ins. So the guy who was all-in chimes in about the half thing, and he's just wrong. But the one seat says, no, it's not enough. And we went back and forth a few times, and I couldn't take it anymore. So, but he was a reasonable guy, so neither of us were irate or raising our voices, and we were sitting right next to each other. So I just said, you asked me, I told you. So one guy at the table started laughing. He loved that, which is an ode to the Seinfeld, when Seinfeld and Elaine are at the airport, and they don't know how much to tip the guy who's going to take their bags outside the airport. And they end up asking him, and the guy says he gets tipped $5 per bag. Like, ton of money back in whatever. That episode was like a 1993 episode or something. And Seinfeld just pays him. He asked, the guy told him, Seinfeld tipped him that much. Elaine thinks he's lying, trying to get extra money out of nothing, and she won't let go. And eventually the employee says, look, you asked me, I told you. What else do you want from that guy? You asked him a question and he gave you an answer. So that's what I said. I said, you asked me, I told you. He goes, yeah, but you didn't tell me the right answer. Which begs the question, if you know the right answer, why are you asking me in the first place? So I don't even know who's right or who's wrong. That floor wasn't there. The floor from that stud tournament weeks ago wasn't there today, and he's one of the best in the entire room, cash side or tournament side, on the rules. I really wish the TDA file weren't such a piece of garbage. It's unorganized, not exhaustive, and there's very few dealer related topics in there. It's more registration topics and floor decisions and things like that. Anytime I look through it, it's very difficult to find things that I want to look up because something rare happened that day and I'm trying to find an answer and it's just not in there. So I thought it was like no limit when I had like no information on fixed limit, and then like a month ago the floor told me, yeah, any amount triggers a raise, but now you're not going like 2,000, 2,000, 2,000. It's the all-in amount plus one bet. And I remember that because this can't be the reason they made the rule, if it is the rule, but it's a consequence of that. It makes the side pots incredibly easy. Like all-ins in no limit hold'em, the side pots can be really complicated. It's just, you know, you have like bet of 74, and then a guy calls 74. Then a guy's all in for like 119, and like the numbers are just like never like round numbers sometimes, but usually not. And it takes a while to make the main pot and the side pot. With this rule, you know, bet 2,000, call 2,000, all in 2,700. The rule as I understood it for the past month, if you want to raise, you're making it the all-in amount plus one big bet. So 4,700. So if the original bettor raises, again, puts out 4,700, and the guy in the middle does the same, the side pot is incredibly simple. The one seat, one bet is going into the side pot. The player in the middle, one bet is going into the side pot. You throw those two bets into the side pot, everything else comes into the middle. It's so easy to make the main pot and the side pot. It's part of the reason I remember that scenario from that stud event like 4 or 5 weeks ago so vividly. But I don't know what the answer is. And because TDA makes terrible, non-exhaustive, non-detailed files, can't even look it up for sure. But just keep asking a bunch of people. I already did ask some people today. I'll ask probably like a lot more, and just like after I ask like 15 people, see what the most common answer is. But I don't even know if it comes up as much in cash. I was going to ask a cash floor, but the one guy I would have asked wasn't there today either. But anyway, but that was I was like, that was the most I've ever talked back to a player. I said, you asked me, I told you. And yeah, it was like the right type of guy to say that to, someone who wouldn't throw a tantrum over it or like call the floor. That actually happened to be my last hand, and when I got up, he said, look, I'm not trying to be a jerk, but like that's not the way it works. And I said, yeah, I'm not trying to be either, but I thought it was the way you're saying it. And I said that in a stud game last month, and the floor was called. And what the floor told me that day is what I'm telling you today. So that's what I've been going by for the past month. But I don't know for sure which one is right. So that was it, but that was cool, that interaction. Oh, there are sometimes people who would just lose it, who I want to talk back to, but they would just like flip the table over or like run to the bar and like come back with an ice pick or something. You have to pick the right type of person to like say something to. So there you go, Omaha 8, never a dull moment. And oh, shout out to the guy, I think it was the next table, who first hand I dealt, he won half the pot and said, that's what I get for watching your vlog. Even though after that I dealt him a series of hands where he was on the losing end of a bunch of them. But thanks for watching. Also shout out the guy, didn't get your name, getting so few names, but one day you were wearing a Raptors hat and a few days later you were wearing a Knicks hat, and you said you've been watching since like I only had 100 subscribers. Awesome, you've been watching since that far back. And shout outs to all the people who I met in the past few days that I don't remember so vividly, or never got any like name or like hometown or anything like that. But that's it for today's video. Today was day 40. Today's a Thursday. Yep, 10 days left. 40 days done, 10 days left. And remember, rice is a spoon food.